Want to hear from a member of Hamas? Our next guest was a member of Hamas. In fact, he's the eldest son of a founding member of Hamas. His name is Mossab Hassan Yousef, and he fought alongside his father for years. He went to prison in Israel, where he started to see things that made him rethink the situation. He then flipped, worked undercover for Israel. You know how dangerous that is? Working for Shin Bet, that's their CIA, for 10 plus years, trying to expose Hamas. Why? Because of what he believes the pain of his people in Palestine is really about. He became dubbed the Green Prince and is now disowned by his father. But he wants you to know the reality, even though it puts him at tremendous risk. And Mossab joins us now. Thank you so much for making the time. I know you're on the other side of the world. I've been chasing you for a while because I think your perspective is so valuable. So thank you very much. And what do you want people to know about what the threat to Palestine's future is? Where is it coming from?
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Lots of confusion, huh? Hamas organization is a barbaric organization, and we have to remove them from power at whatever it takes. You know, and all the people who are afraid to see bloodshed, to them I say, this is war. This is war. We will have to accept it. And Hamas started this war. We're talking about organization that does not regard human life. And this is not their first war against Israel. We have previous wars where they initiated the war against Israel. And the world and the global public bent so fast. And we begged for a ceasefire in the past 3 wars against Hamas. And Israel had to submit to the public opinion. And we did not finish them in the previous 3 wars. Every time they came back stronger. And this time, the voices rise again, asking to stop and to cease the fire. And what will happen tomorrow if we cease fire now? The job is unfinished. This problem has been going on for 35 years. This is Hamas. And they have been trying so hard to annihilate the state of Israel, risking the Palestinian lives and risking the civilians in the entire region.
But
so
we just had a guest on, Mossab, who's sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. She says what many say here, which is Israel is killing so many civilians in Palestine that this is almost about bloodlust, and that Hamas is their only chance to fight back, and that this is an act of a desperate people, and it should be understood that way. What do you say to that point of view?
Well, I say to that point of view, it's better be silent at this moment, because anti-Semitism and anti-Israel, anti-life is what was in common between this type of people and the Nazis. You know, because the Nazis, about 100 years ago, it was a point of view. And soon later, they were gassing people in chambers. So today we have very similar situation. We have a Nazi group. We saw what they did on October 7th. And they are hiding behind children and women. Israel say evacuate civilians, leaflets, phone calls, through media, gave them an opportunity of 20 days to evacuate, but they didn't. They still given shelter to Hamas. You know why? Because they are partnering with Hamas. And in this case, Israel is not responsible for any harm that happens to these civilians in northern Gaza, staying now as we speak, while they had the opportunity to get the fuck out. 3 weeks, run for your life. Israel made it very clear why they are still in northern Gaza, giving Hamas shelter, giving Hamas protection.
Well, Mossab, you know the situation.
Before we blame Israel, let me tell you something. If these civilians choose to be with Hamas, then if they die with Hamas, It's not Israel's fault.
I hear you if it's a choice. Here's the concern. Two different points that I want your take on. I know you know the situation better. I know that these are your people that are dying here right now. But one is that Israel is making a choice and is doing this and is hitting civilian centers. Aren't you worried that they're creating the next generation of resistance? And the 20-day notice that you gave the F-bomb to, there is a lot of reporting on the ground that says it's not safe for them to leave and that there's nowhere for them to go because there's no real humanitarian zone set up. What do you make of those 2 points? You're creating your enemy, and there's nowhere that they can go and they can't get there.
Look, instead of blaming Israel, they should be protesting against the United Nations and against the Egyptian government and other governments who are closing the border, where civilians should get out and go far from the war zone to safety. Civilians should evacuate to Sinai. Gaza is a very small territory, and the Egyptians are closing the border. This pro-Palestine, this pro-ceasefire in the United States and the rest of the world, they are escapists, and they want us to stop the operation instead of putting pressure on the United Nations to open the border, to evacuate the civilians just temporarily, as Israel would have the freedom to eradicate this terrorist group. This is the correct thing to do instead of exchanging blame now. And I don't know what really motivates them, because many of them, I'm not sure about their real motives. Is it the Gazan children, or they have a problem with Israel? Do they have a problem with the Jewish people? Is it about jealousy? Why are they inflicting emotional pain on the Jewish people as they mourn a modern-day Holocaust? Look, my heart breaks for the death of the Gaza people, but I have been saying this for over 20 years, that Hamas is dangerous. And what the Palestinian people do about it, they considered me a traitor for letting them know that Hamas is not helping them, that Hamas is their greatest enemy. And today I tell them, Hamas is your greatest enemy. Why don't you stand against Hamas? Why don't they have the power to renounce Hamas and to say, this does not represent us? I'm even talking about the Palestinians in the West Bank and the rest of the Arab world. I'm not seeing one leader who stand firm and say Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people and Hamas is a deadly barbaric group. Not even a strong voice. So when they are partnering with Hamas and giving Hamas cover, then they will have to pay the price. I cannot blame Israel. I'm not saying that killing civilians is okay, but in war, people die. And by the way, a premature ceasefire today will lead to more violence, certainly to more violence, if we don't eradicate Hamas now, whatever it takes, even if civilians will die. Well, if we don't do this today, this time, this war, now, tomorrow, the violence will be much greater than this. And please excuse me, forgive me for raising my voice. You know, this is very frustrating. All those clowns coming, speaking on behalf of the Palestinian people, they don't care for the Palestinian people. They don't care for Israel. They are a bunch of hypocrites. They better be silent.
Mossab, you have nothing to apologize for. I appreciate your passion. I respect your understanding, and I thank you for making the case on the show